crowd comes to life at Tiger Stadium. Snap, kick. The kick is good. And the UAB Blazers have defeated the LSU Tigers 13-10.
What better way to lead in the episode than with the call from the legendary radio play-by-play broadcaster for the Auburn Tigers and your UAB Blazers, Mr. Gary Sanders. The call was from the kick in Baton Rouge that sent the UAB Blazers to a 13-10 victory over the LSU Tigers in 2000. And that game has made UAB 1-0 against Nick Saban all time. And that's a huge talking point for Blazer fans to this day. The kick was made by none other than my 12th guest on the Dragons Den podcast, Mr. Rhett Gallego. Welcome to the episode, and thank you guys for listening. I know you guys are ready to get into it, and we have a lot to talk about, so here it is. Hope you enjoy. All right, Blazer fans, I've got my guest for episode 11 of the Dragons Den, a former kicker for the UAB football team from 1998 to 2001, Mr. Rhett Gallego. Rhett, how you doing tonight?
Man, I'm good. I appreciate you having me here. This is cool.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome having you, Rhett. It's a, true legend among Blazer fans, and everybody remembers the kick and your time here at UAB. So it's awesome having you on and adding you to my amazing group of guests that I've had on. So thank you for joining.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen all the guys that are on here, but I think I saw Jagiel was on here. And it's funny, we were talking about trying to get the computer set up, and you were talking about guys. So my wife, she was like, what's going on with it? And I was like, I'm using your computer. And he said that like the other guys that had trouble were coaches. I was like, so I guess we're just gonna have to go another route on this thing. So, but yeah, man, it's neat. It's neat that you're doing this, and it's cool. I'm glad you're getting guys from my era, that we're kind of we're fighting to have what the guys now have. You know what I mean? And I think all of us would say we're really proud of those guys, but deep down, you're probably a little bit envious too. A lot of the success of the program now and what those guys, opportunities those guys have, because that was something we had to really kind of fight for and in our time there.
Yeah, and we'll get into all that. And I'll go ahead and get into your stats here for my listeners so they can be reacquainted with you. You're sixth all time in UAB history in career field goals with 30. Tied for second in single season field goals from 2000. You had 19. Tied for third in single season field goals made single game field goals, with 4 versus UL Lafayette in 2000. Sixth in UAB history in career field goal percentage of the 714 average. UAB all-time leader in single season field goal percentage in 2000. I don't know if it's the single season field goal or if it's extra points, but
I don't know. Some of that stuff gets 20 years for me, man. So I don't know. I'm crazy on it, but I mean, just kind of the fact that you're reading me off and I'm still in there, because I know there was a good guy. Nick followed right after me, and he was really good, and there was good guys to come after that. And so just to have anything that's still relevant, I guess, besides one kick, it's pretty cool, pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, and let's see, you finished 7th in UAB history in career PATs, 56, 7th in UAB in career PAT percentage at a 949 percentage, tied for first in single season PAT percentage, and 7th in most career points scored by kicking with 146 points. You tied for 10th in most single season points scored by kicking, 80 points in 2000. You tied for second in most single game points scored by kicking, 15 points in a single game versus Southern Miss in 2000. And of course, you made the kick against LSU in 2000 as well. So great stat sheet right there for you.
Yeah.
And it's great to still see you in the record books, man. I know it's been 20 years, definitely. But it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, you always want to feel like you did more than just a couple plays. And so I guess, if you got that kind of stuff, it means that you put some good time in over 4 years for sure.
Yeah. So you were a local product that went to Hueytown. Did you have any interest from schools outside of UAB or what made you choose UAB?
The schools that recruited me actually were like Army and Navy. I took a visit to West Point. It was a really neat place. I mean, I've got a young guy now that's 13, and I pretty much like we talk about what schools he would want to play football at, and I was like, well, if it's not, there's UAB, but Army's a good place too. It was a pretty neat place, and just, I just felt like I think back, I was 18 at the time trying to make that decision. And that was like a really big life decision, and even kind of narrowed it down between Army and Navy and just said, hey, I'm going to go the route of either Army or somewhere else. And it just really worked out. Like I made the decision that Army wasn't going to be the place for me, and UAB was like, we got a place for you here. And it was really kind of where I wanted to go. Just being a local kid, you want to be able to play close to home and have people see you. And there was something about UAB. I think it being up and coming and maybe getting to play with guys you already knew, teammates that you played with a couple years before, like Thomas. Me and him went to high school together, Thomas Cox, and so we actually roomed together our first year. And so there was just something about it. I was just drawn to it. I mean, just really the idea of kind of going out and again, like you're setting the table for the future of a program, and that was neat to me. Having a chance to make your own individual mark, but make one as a program too. And so that's just kind of where it fell to that at the end, that was the place for me.
So your first collegiate game, you're a freshman in 1998, your first collegiate game, you guys go to number 4 Nebraska in Lincoln. What do you remember about that day?
Man, it was pretty amazing. Like, we played Nebraska, and they were number 4, but they also were the defending national champion. And then, like I said, 5 or 6 games later, somewhere mid-season, we go play Tennessee, who's in the run towards their national championship. So, like, I'm 18, and I'm getting to see the elite of the elite. When you're talking about size, speed, programs, traditions, and it's just amazing. And I remember, like, that being my first game and just being there, just getting to the stadium. So, like, the stadium is in Lincoln. We stayed in Omaha. You don't even stay in Lincoln. And so, like, everything is just so flat in Nebraska. So we're driving out there and you start seeing the stadium and you think, okay, we're 5 minutes from the stadium. Like, you're an hour from the stadium. You just can see it so far off in the distance. And then you get there and it's an old stadium. And if I was a football junkie anyways coming in. And so, like, you watch, and I remember growing up, for some reason, my family liked Colorado. So we would watch Colorado, Nebraska, and you just see the stadium and it's just old school. And I remember even like walking through underneath the stadium to get to the locker room. You're just walking like the baseball team's area. So you're like walking through batting cages and just a different experience. And then you get out there and like, there they are with them freaking white helmets. And, it's like, oh my gosh, that's Nebraska. And you're doing your thing and you're trying to, I think the hardest, the most, toughest thing, I guess, as an 18-year-old kid is you went from playing, in Hughtown High School, maybe whatever, 2,000 people in the stands to like, this place is about to fill up and it's going to be 90,000 people. And you're trying to figure out what that's going to feel like. Cause you can go to a game, like you can go to games as a kid growing up, you can be in full stadiums, but there really is nothing like you come out, you stand on the sideline, and then that home team comes out, and that place erupts. And I remember Nebraska, especially, it was like the old turf, so like everything just shook, like the sounds echoed. It was just like the loudest experience. And I remember like seeing the older guys though, like it wasn't a big deal. Like that was the thing about it was the way UAB was set up. Like we had to play anybody anywhere to get any kind of respect and just to get experience. So. You start looking at these older guys, and they're like, man, that's just a ball game. And so you kind of take on that same attitude, like, okay, we're just in a ball game. And I remember we played well. It was tight going in the fourth quarter. They eventually pulled away on us. But I'll be honest, I didn't play that day. I'm probably glad I didn't play that day. It would have been very nerve-wracking just to take it all in. But I did play at Tennessee later on that year, made a couple field goals. And again, that was just another one that, the experience of being in a stadium, 110,000 people, and everybody keeps telling you, like, they don't expand the stadium, they just make the seats tighter. And sure enough, like, people are everywhere. It's just in that stadium, you just go straight up, and you can just look up and see them, and you see this little strip of green of the UAB fans, and I don't know, just altogether, just the college football experience. It's like nothing else. Like you just can't equate it. You can't describe a lot of the experiences. Like I said, that moment of being on the field and watching your opponent come out and just people just adoring them and, ground shaking. Like, how can you really describe to somebody that can get so loud the ground shakes? You know what I mean? And, it's just, I'm just blessed to have actually got to do that. I think it's amazing that it's the game in itself. And I hate that this year is kind of kind of diminish some of that stuff because people don't get to experience what's going on. And I know that's what's got to happen for what we're in. But I'm like everybody else. I'll be happy when it gets back to it and people can get back to experiencing that again.
Yeah. So 2 weeks later, you guys get another crack at a Big 12 opponent at home against Kansas. The game tied the NCAA record for the longest game with 4 overtimes.
Yeah.
But you guys fell 39-37. What do you remember that game?
I remember it in terms of the overtimes and like it going up and down. And like I said, again, you go play another team that's in a big conference and they come to your place. And like I said, those older guys, man, every time they just act like this is where we're supposed to be. Eventually you take the same attitude, like it's just a ball game. We put the same work in the off season. We got the same amount of skills. I mean, we're just going to go out here and play. And, who makes the least mistakes is going to have the best chance to win. And sometimes you play teams that outpower you, or they just, you have a flat day. But for the most part, I mean, you always go into the game thinking you're going to win. I think that was an example of it. I don't remember a lot of it. I mean, it's hard to kind of remember some of those and those moments and really put it all together. But I think if I remember anything, a home game, here we are. We're going to show you what we got. I mean, you came to our place this time, and we're not going to back down. I mean, that was really the biggest attitude I think that I got from the guys I played with was just don't back down. No matter where you're at, what you're doing, just don't back down. You'll be fine.
Okay. You guys finished your freshman season with a 4-7 record. You went 11-13 on extra points and 7 of 7 on field goals in your freshman year. So pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially for a freshman. But how did you feel going forward after your freshman year?
I mean, getting out there and having success, individually, I just felt like, okay, well, I'm here and I've done it and I can keep doing it. You feel validated, I guess, if you have success as a freshman, really, because it's kicking wise. And maybe they got new guys, the younger guys now. I helped my son's team and some of his kickers, and when I was in high school, we used a big 2-inch block, and then you had to get down to the ground in college and learn how to kick. And it was almost like you had to just kind of took that freshman year of just kind of like learning something all over again. And so to be able to do something, learn it, learn how to kick off the ground and then go out there and actually perform as a freshman and make kicks we needed. And like I said, get to make it, not just make them at home, but at places like Tennessee, where there's you're always going to feel pressure. Like that's the thing about playing sports. You'll always feel pressure, but be able to just to calm yourself and get out there and do it. I feel good about myself as far as the program. I saw the guys I was playing with. I mean, you look over and there's Brian Thomas and Marlon Bush. Like, how do you not think these guys are going to get better? Jago Duggar. I mean, what these Percy Coleman, like these are great players. Like they're going to work in off season. We got talent. And I can remember, us getting linemen. That was probably the biggest thing was finding depth in the playing year. Because we're not even a conference yet, and you're still starting off and trying to get guys in there to create depth, and you start seeing depth start to come in. And for me, from my freshman to sophomore year, we went from 70 scholarships to 85 scholarships. And so it's just a jump. I mean, you could just get more guys in now that are scholarship athletes. So you're just going to have more competition on the field. I remember that was one thing too. You just started to see practices get more competitive. And you saw guys more competitive in the weight room, and it just, it creates an atmosphere of competing against each other that you're always trying to push. You're always trying to win. And that's only going to make you better as far as getting out and playing. I mean, as far as when the season comes around and games come around.
Okay. Go flash forward to your sophomore year. You guys went 5-6.
Yeah.
You took a big step forward though as a program in your first win over a ranked opponent, and a 36-17 win over number 17 East Carolina.
Yeah.
What do you remember from that game?
I mean, that's the game where Rodriguez, we all thought he had a concussion, and he comes back and he's wearing they had to cut his jersey off. And Rodriguez Brooks ended up playing in the NFL for a little bit for the Colts, and defensive back, punt returner, and we thought he gets a concussion. He thinks he's out. All of a sudden, next thing you know, he comes back. He returns a punt for a touchdown. He's wearing his mom's jersey. They had to cut his jersey off, and his mom comes out of the stands, gives him the jersey she has. He goes out there and plays in it, so he has the same number. and returns a punt. I remember the day being really special because it wasn't anything like, oh, here comes a ranked team. We're at home. I remember Thomas started, and he just felt good. You could just, having known him since we were 13 years old, I could just, you can just tell when somebody's feeling good and the way they're carrying themselves. And he's a preparation junkie. He wasn't going to be out prepared anytime he went out there. His father was a coach. That's just the way he grew up. He knew how to read, to look at film and get ready for a game. And you got to get some breaks. There's no doubt about that. And I remember getting some breaks as we're going along. And that was one thing for us was once we kind of got up on you or we started to get momentum. You being the underdog, you don't ever want to let that go. So you just keep pushing and you keep pressing with it. And I just remember there was a point kind of in the third quarter was like, man, we're not just going to win this game. Like, we're winning this game pretty big right now. Like we got these guys, And so, it was a great day. I remember it was sunny. It was just a good day. Like I said, that's amazing to have a guy go out and come back wearing his Monster jersey, return a punt for a touchdown. You can't make that up.
You're I believe you're the third person that has we've talked about that story on the podcast with. It's something that lives on in folklore with UAB fans, Absolutely. Former players and stuff. So
yeah.
But so going into your junior year, 2000, you guys started off with a 20-15 win over Chattanooga, and then you lost another heartbreaker to Kansas, 23-20, before heading to Baton Rouge to face LSU. So, what was the general feeling in the locker room after those first two games?
I think like the Kansas game, we all probably felt like we just kind of left one there. Like I don't think anybody left there thinking, dang, why, we played hard. Like everybody left there like we should have won that game. Honestly, we made some mistakes, played good. You go out there and played well on the road. I remember their kid that kicked the field. They won by a field goal. This kid like missed an extra point, then makes like a 50-yarder to win the game. Like what? How does that even happen? So you're kind of like, and I remember that year too. Somehow we were short one conference game compared to everybody else, and so we had to choose between. They made us choose between Kansas or LSU for a conference game. Like that doesn't really match up with everything, I guess. But so we chose Kansas, having played them before, and then we've been pretty comfortable, I guess. That was the thought process. But I don't think anybody left there thinking, here we go. It's going to be kind of a tough year again. Like everybody thought we should have won that game. Should be 2-0. Should be going back home, getting ready to go to Baton Rouge. But it didn't change. The result of it didn't change anybody's attitude for the next week. That's obvious. You saw what happened. Again, you do this for a couple of years. That was the other thing too. I think I remember. There was like 22 of us that were seniors together. Like all 22 were either starters or playing somewhere on the field. Like these guys, we're talking about experience and guys that are just playing games constantly. And, it just leads up to you get used to the road, you get used to the underdog, you get used to people kind of counting you out. And so it becomes an afterthought. Like it's not even anything now. It's not, it's an edge for us, but it's really like, that's how you want to look at it. We look at it like we're good and we're going to go show people we're good.
So you guys get to Baton Rouge, and what was that atmosphere like at LSU that night?
That's a crazy place. That's a crazy place. You can't call it anything else. Again, like the bus rides I remember a lot of times just because every place in our country is different, right? And so you're down there in Baton Rouge, and you start coming in, and it's like a one-way into the stadium, and they bring the buses on, and it's like 5 miles, and it's just cars and people already out there tailgating. It's their homecoming, and people are shooting as birds, and 8-year-old kids to like 70-year-old men shooting as birds. Like I guess that's just what they do there, and you just knew it was going to be a fun time for sure. And I remember getting in the stadium and warming up, and like there's already students in the crowd, and they're messing with us and yelling at us, and it don't take, but I think one of the backup guys like banged one off an upright or something, and man, they just like led into him. They just stayed on top of him. And I was kind of like, all right, you can't miss in warm-ups if you want to keep these guys off of you. And so, but I think it was just a neat experience. Again, when you do this so many times, you also take in the stadiums too, because you take in the experiences, right? Like you know what it feels like to play at home in Birmingham. But you take the experiences in of the other places because you want to do everything you can to start building a program that's got the same thing going on. Eventually in Birmingham, like we see now, it's just I can go into these games now versus when I was going. This just the atmosphere is different, the stadium's different. Of course, we're gonna have a new stadium, but as far as that night, I mean, again, everybody felt confident, everybody felt good. It wasn't our first time to be on a big stage like that. It wasn't our first time to play a big team like that. Probably the worst thing that can happen is they did overlook us. I mean, obviously, because you talk about the guys that I think I counted up at one time too. There was like 16 guys off of that team that ended up playing some kind of professional football. I mean, so you're talking about guys that it's not just guys that are just out there just trying to make it through a season. I mean, we're talking about skilled athletes, and again, guys that are first round draft picks. I mean, this is a good team, and so. Again, it just in the confidence. I remember Pat Sullivan, asking him, like, "Coach, you ever played here before?" And he was like, "Yeah, I never lost here either. I don't plan on tonight." And you're just like, I guess we're gonna win. Everything's gonna be good now. So you have people around you, you have leadership around you that's leading you like that. You can't do nothing else but just follow along with it. And, we knew our defense was good. There was, that was when those guys were just coming of age, and so. The front four was just tremendous and just good players all around. And, so you knew we'd go in there and we'd have a chance to stop them. And then really just came down to, can we get down the field and create opportunities on offense? And we did enough what we needed to do to win the game.
So you did do enough offensively to start the game. You jumped out to a 10-0 lead.
Yeah.
And LSU came back and tied it up in the second half. So take us through, what you remember from the second half, and of course, up to the kick and all that. Just What do you remember about the second half, really?
Well, I think being up 10-0, I don't think it surprised us. You know what I mean? Like we were just like, okay, we're up 10-0. Here we go. You kind of think, well, what are we going to do in the second half? Can we keep kind of pushing the pedal? Or football games ebb and flow anyways, and momentum swings and guys get hot. And but I don't think anybody thought they wouldn't push to come back. I don't think any of us were going to sit on it, And so, realistically, the second half, it just kind of was a game. I mean, that's what I remember about it was, if we went to LSU, why do we not think they were going to fight? They're not going to just lay over for us. It's their homecoming. Of course, you don't even know. None of us knew who Nick Saban was at the time. He wasn't really Nick Saban, if you think about it. And it was, I think his reputation was beginning then, right? And so nobody really knew what was to come with him in terms of him coaching and changing that program. And so, all you knew was that was LSU, and they've been up and down, and of course they're going to have good athletes, but so do we. And so as the game goes on in the second half, for them to score and for them to claw back, I mean, that was just expected. I mean, you're in a football game. That's what's going to happen. But obviously, of course, the way it went down to end was great. I mean, it was, you got to have luck. Like I said, you got to have some breaks, and we got some breaks. That's really what happened for us there.
Okay. Take us through the moment of getting called out there on the field and just the general atmosphere, that feeling of going out there and the kick, of course. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, really for me, there's never anything to lose in terms of playing for a team that every time we score, then we thought we were supposed to do that anyway. So you don't have anything to lose. I think the benefit for me was it was 10-10. I just already was hot coming into that game to start the season off. As the second half's going and it's 10-7 and 10-10, you know that eventually at some point, if we get a chance, you're going to have to kick a field goal to win the game. That's just the way it is. And so it's not like it was a shock. It's not like a surprise. I'm preparing myself for it. The way we got the ball probably was a little bit more outstanding. I mean, just to get the interception and out of nowhere, just here it is handed to us, and then to run the plays and get, to get it down. But being a junior at that time, I mean, I knew that timeouts were going to get called. Like, they're not going to waste timeouts. That's the standard practice. I knew that my teammates didn't realize, like, hey, at this moment, I'm cool. You can't talk to me all game. You ain't got to talk to me right now. All of a sudden, that's always seems to be the theme. Like, everybody just kind of leaves you alone. All of a sudden, it's clutch time. It's like, hey, man, you got it, which I'm glad they're for you. but when you're trying to just kind of zone in, you're like, hey, I mean, I'm good. I got it, And I think for me, the biggest thing for me was I just wanted to kind of like enjoy the opportunity. I think that's the biggest thing, the hard work, because that was a season coming into it. And I give it to credit to Nick. I mean, we had to fight to see who was going to be the starter that year, and so it made me get myself together in the off season, made me come into camp with a different mind frame. So to be there in that opportunity was not just that moment, but it was the whole off season of working hard to get to that point, to be a starter and be to be able to have that opportunity that night. And then it's for me too. My faith carried me through that in terms of. I always know that I'm going to be all right. Make a kick, miss a kick, whatever, win, lose, whatever. God's got me, and God's got a plan for my life. And but in that moment, you want to say, "Hey, God, I mean, you put me here, so I don't want to waste it." And I think that was probably my biggest thing was I just wanted to honor Him in terms of the opportunity. If you give me the opportunity, I want to do everything I can for glory of Your kingdom, and then more importantly for these other guys that I've worked with, for 3 years now, and the off season and grinded and sweated with and. That's the thing about off-season programs, even if you're a kicker, receiver, lineman, everybody's doing the same thing, right? So everybody's sweating together, everybody's hurting together, everybody's having a good time. And so your teammates, you don't want to let your teammates down. And you got people that travel there that care about our program and care about us. And so you just, again, it's not so much you always feel pressure. But the thing is, it's like, I just need to go do what I do. I remember Brandon Herron, who played center when I got there, and he was from Hueytown too. Like one of the first things he told me when I got to camp when I was a freshman was, "Hey man, whatever you do on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, it's the same thing you do on Saturday. There's no blocking schemes, there's no blitzes. So like if you just treat Monday like Saturday, you'll be fine." And I just remember that. And I kept that was just my mentality throughout my career. And so there's a lot of stuff going on, but the kick is still the same kick I had to kick on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So as long as we had a good snap, good hold, and I just did what I was supposed to, it's going to work out.
Nice. Yeah, you made the kick. You mentioned the fans that were there in attendance. I was there. I was one of them.
Yeah.
But I was only 5 at the time, so I don't remember much of it. But I just remember the celebration and of course, seeing the clip of it now. Of course, I wish we could have the whole game. I'd watch it over and over again. But you mentioned your hot streak from the starting off the season and everything, and of course the LSU one kind of gave you a little bit of a confidence booster. But that strong kicking didn't stop at LSU. The week later, you had 4 field goals, like I mentioned earlier at the start, against Louisiana Lafayette in a 47-2 beatdown at Legion Field the next week. So, how are you feeling after that? Of course. From that and the early season start, how'd you feel going into the rest of the year?
Feel good. I like that next week, actually, when people ask me like, what was your best game? Like I always tell people that was really my best game, the Louisiana Lafayette game, because those 4 kicks were all from 40 plus. So, I mean, you're talking about just if there's a challenge to it, that's a challenge. So I always tell people like that was really my best game. I mean, people ask me how long the LSU kick was, and I tell them like 60 yards and hurricane, you tell them all that stuff. But I was like, realistically, that was a 30-yard kick. That's a kick that every college kicker should be able to make. High school kids are making it. But like I said, for me, I just felt like to go out and kick 4 field goals of 40 plus and be accurate. That's my best game. But I think we really, as far as the season going forward, I think everybody just felt momentum. It felt good, and it really felt like it was kind of leading up to like, okay, we're one of the top teams in the conference, and we're going to kind of set that right from that. The Kansas game counting against us, and we're going to get ready to play. And you start thinking about bowl games, you start thinking about conference championships, you start thinking about a lot of stuff. Like you just all this stuff that you've seen other people get to have, and all these things that you keep working for, it finally becomes like attainable. It starts to become something that's actually in front of you. Not just playing games, but winning games and winning big games, and then having a winning record and like a good winning record and being nationally known. And all this stuff starts to actually be in front of you. And it's you don't want to let it die. You just want to keep on building off of it and keep building off of it, and keep pushing it to try to get the most you can out of the season.
So you guys finished the 2000 season with a 7-4 record. The Kansas loss, as we mentioned, and then you had a couple of tough conference losses. But you guys weren't invited to a bowl game due to the conference issue that you talked about with the bowl tying and everything. Did you guys feel you deserved a shot at a bowl game? And did you feel like you could have competed well in a bowl game, just depending on whoever?
Yeah. I think I know we felt like we deserved a bowl game. I mean, to finish 7-4, to finish second in the conference, and then to have that LSU win. I mean, why wouldn't we deserve a bowl game? And I remember seeing the ESPN stat. The teams, the bubble teams or whatever. Like we were like the number one bubble team that was sitting out there. And it's kind of it is what it is. You learn you learn the lesson real quick. Like college athletics is more than just what's happening on the field. Unfortunately, there's a lot of other stuff going on. Money plays into things, and whatever, ticket sales and whatever else you can put out there. And that was one thing you kind of learn that lesson real quick right there. Like, man, we're gonna have to do more than just win. Like we're gonna have to win like all the way. You have to win the conference championship. And so, yeah, I feel like we did. I feel like we deserved a bowl. I think it's just the way it goes, though. It doesn't take away from the season that we didn't go to a bowl game. It would have been nice to cap it off and really put another feather in the hat of the program. But, it was still a good season, still a great season. We ended on a win up at Army. I remember that, freezing cold. And, we stumbled against, I think, Louisville and Cincinnati, which were the kind of the two top teams of the conference at the time. And, if we really didn't like it, we probably should just beat those guys. And that'd probably we wouldn't have anything to say now if we beat them. So, it's kind of the way it goes.
So 2001, it had its fair shares of up and down. You guys went for the 6-5 record. What do you remember from that season, and how did you feel about your career at UAB overall?
It was a tough year because you have a lot of expectations coming off of that 7-4 year. You actually have people that pay attention. So it's the same team. So these guys should be pretty good. You're going to have some people that I think we even would, if you looked out and people were kind of saying, well, it's still UAB, you had a little bit more edge. Like, hey, it's the same team that just went out here and shocked the world. So we felt like we should have been good. Of course, you also have to learn how to deal with having the bullseye on you a little bit more now. That's probably what happened to us a little bit more to start the season, was just everybody was kind of it's a new pressure now, right? Like we've gone from nobody cares if nobody knows if you're going to win, nobody expects you to win, to like, okay, now you got a game you're supposed to win. There's different kind of pressure on it. And it was just, it was just one of those seasons that kind of was slow to get started as far as the momentum of the season. It took some time to get through it. I mean, I remember I had a couple of really bad games that season. Missed a couple of kicks at Southern Miss, and we lost 3-0. I mean, I should have made my kicks, right? Like, I mean, that's as simple as it gets. There was a play in the game that was a touchdown got called back, and everybody talks about that. But I mean, I'll take it. I should have made my kicks, and we wouldn't have to worry about it. So it was just one of those years. It just was slow to get started, and guys, you'd have a great game. I remember I had a great game against Army like the week before Southern Miss, and then all of a sudden we go to Southern Miss and just it's not working right for me and really for everybody else, to lose 3-0. The defense played amazing. I mean, they're always going to play good, but it's just the way it went. And then finally kind of got over a point and we started to get some momentum. And I think, what did we finish with? Maybe 4 or 5 wins in a row or something like that to get to that winning record. So, it was a good way to go out. I felt like, ending it off like that, you'd like to see. I would like to have my senior year be one of those amazing years, right? Like, I think everybody would say that. You want your senior year to be the year that the team just excels and that you excel. And but it was just a learning experience in terms of, hey, even when you're down at first, you can't get out. You just keep plugging away, you keep pushing. We found a way to scrap and claw and get 6 wins, which is that was a big thing. I'm sure nobody ever thought we'd be a 2 years in a row winning team, a team that's bowl eligible like that. And so, you can, through adversity, you can build character, you can build yourself up, even the team can build itself up, learn lessons from it, and 20 years later now, I mean, other than you asked me about my senior year, I hadn't thought about it very much. I mean, cause life kept moving on, there was things that come afterwards. And so, you learn the lessons from it, you forget the negative stuff from it, and just keep the positives and keep going forward.
So, following your time at UAB, you played a couple of years with the Birmingham Steeldogs in 2003 and 2004. from what I found.
Yeah.
And you played alongside several of your UAB teammates. What was that like?
I think that was probably one of the most fun experiences those 2 years of doing that. Just playing, the Steeldogs too. We had Coach Bobby Humphrey was our coach, and getting to play with Marlon played. Let's see, I'm trying to think of there were several guys that played. I think the neat thing is you go from playing together to now you're playing together again in a different atmosphere. But also sometimes you look across the field and there's other guys that you like. Wait, you were supposed to be on our sideline. I remember Ernest Ross and Chris Jeter played up in Huntsville. You're like, wait a minute, you guys are supposed to be on our. You kind of have to get used to okay, now you're opponents again. But it's just but now you're out there and there's respect and love, and it's just a battle. It's a ball game. We're gonna go at it when the game's over. How you been? How's things going for you? It's really neat. I think I enjoyed the professional football and the way it's kind of handled. It's you're expected to do well, and so it's hey, you show up, do what you're supposed to do, and the rest of the time you just have fun. You have a good time, and it was nice to play on that level and to play on to travel again. I always enjoyed the traveling from football. It was nice being in the pros where you got there was no hey, you got to stay in the hotel. Hey, make sure you're back in your room by curfew, and make sure that you stay out of trouble. And you get to be a grown man really, and be responsible and get out and see some stuff. Arena football was a blast. I don't know any other way to say it, but it's a blast for everybody, right? For even as a kicker, to be on the field, you're on the field 20 times a game. You're kicking off, you run down and making tackles, and then field goals are super tight, what you've got to make. And so, and if it doesn't make, it's a live ball. And so you're just in it, you're just in the middle of the mix. And, the atmosphere of it, the promotions and just everything, the arenas are tight, fans are in there and they're loud. And, it was a blast. I can't describe it any more than how much fun it really was. And like I said, get to play with the guys that I played with at UAB, make new teammates, some new friends, and some guys that, they were just amazing players at their colleges, and we're still doing it in there in arena teams. And, it's just, again, I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have had a chance to go to college and have a scholarship to pay for my college, and let alone play games and then play in those atmospheres. And then after that, I get to get paid to play for 2 years. It's crazy to me. I enjoyed every minute of it. So, I'm just thankful for it.
So talking about these guys that you played with at UAB, Brian Thomas, Eddie Freeman, Percy Coleman, Jagiel Duggar, Thomas Cox, Willie Quinney, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
What was it like playing with these guys while you were at UAB?
Man, they're just I think if there's anything, when we're kind of getting ready for this, if there's anything I miss, or just thinking about that time, man, I wish I could just spend more time with this. I wish I would have just I wish I could just, you never know as a kid. It's 19, 20 years old. You just think you got to do everything in life. And if I look back at it now, I wish I'd have just hung out with them more in the locker room and just connected with them more, just because now you kind of keep up with each other on Facebook, or you see each other at a ball game, and it's missed time that you didn't have. But especially the guys that were just, all those guys are just quality guys, good guys. That was probably the locker room, the guys that were in that locker room that I played with, just solid people, solid guys. I like Marlon. Me and Marlon played the Steeldogs together. Solid guy. Rick Crosby, he played on the Steeldogs with me. Solid guy. Just great guys, and we try to catch up. One of the neat things about the Steeldogs was I got to play with Cedric Buchanan. Well, Buke was gone way before I ever got to UAB, but we played arena football together. So that was a neat thing, And everybody's the same kind of guy, same character, just good guys, do anything for you. That's what I think that's probably the biggest thing about my teammates is that if you saw them right now, they grab you, hug you, how you doing, anything they can do for you. Just good guys, just the best in the world.
So a few years ago, and a backstory for my listeners, I own Rhett's helmet that he wore from the LSU kick, and you were awesome enough and kind enough to meet me, and you signed it for me, and it's sitting proudly downstairs. And
awesome.
It's one of probably my favorite piece of memorabilia that I have downstairs, and it's great. It's a great story, and I love seeing it all the time. But when you met with me and signed that helmet, you told me about a funny story, and I'm hoping you still remember it pretty well. But you told me about a teammate that was challenging Brian Thomas to a race in practice.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about like a fast guy. This was Willie Queenie. Like, so this guy played in the NFL too. Like, this not just some guy out there in the field. Like, this was a guy that I think Willie was like Junior Olympics 4x100s or something, like 4x400 team or something like that. Like, so we're talking about somebody fast. And I think he just kept on like, Brian, I'm faster than you. Brian, I'm faster than you. Finally, Brian just had enough of it one day. He was like, all right, let's just do it. Goal line to goal line. And I mean, like they get ready to take off by like the 50-yard line. Like, Willie's like, I'm good. I mean, that's what, and if you know who Brian Thomas is a first-round draft pick. Like, we're talking about a freak of nature, right? Like 6'4", 260 pounds, like zero fat on his body, runs like whatever Brian ran, 4.4 or something like that. Like, this guy could hawk you down at any time, And so, I mean, yeah, it's just, I mean, again, that's a story. Like, I tell people that, and I think you can visualize it, but you can't really imagine watching these two guys, like the amount of speed that's going neck and neck right there. Right. And like, I always tell the story because, like, I just don't think people can really understand what it's like to watch somebody that looked like Brian run that fast. Like, it was just like, I'm just like, I'm glad you're on my team. that's all you can say a lot of times. Like, I'm glad you're on my team. Right. You're not on that other side coming at me. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, there's just stuff like that you would see that's just amazing. Like, you can't explain to people how good these athletes are. You can tell stories like that, but they're insane. They're truly insane. I remember Roddy and Dan Burks were, I think they were like high school state champion wrestlers. And they like wrestled one day, and it was like, who's going to break these guys up? Like, they're like, you can't stop. Like, it's just like, I'm not in the middle of that, right? Like, you just see stuff like that. These are not just football players. These are guys that can do a lot of things. They can do a lot of things really, really well. So just neat stuff like that. It being there. That's another thing about college football. Like, you're guys from all over the country that are coming in that just mesh together, and you stay competitive because you're like brothers. You're always in there, but at the end of the day, like, you're same team, and you're going out to win, to win the game. I mean, that's just the way it is.
What was it like playing for coaches like Watson Brown and Pat Sullivan also being on there, and some other great individuals that have gone on to that are still coaching? I remember in our conversation with Jaquil Duggar that we've still got. There's a couple of coaches that are slipping my mind right now, but some guys that are still coaching right now. I believe one of them is at Oklahoma State. But what was it like being on a roster with Watson Brown and Pat Sullivan and all these guys?
Coach Brown, he, if you just kind of start looking him up, like, guys travel. Like, coaches are different places all the time, it seems like. But like Coach, like he wasn't at just like regular places. Like, this guy was at Oklahoma as offense coordinator. Like, he was a head coach at Vanderbilt. Like, he was at places that were like big time schools, right? Like, so, just being around him and his experience, he had a lot of experience and been in a lot of places. Coach was a great guy. You could talk to him. I felt like you always could talk to him. He was demanding. He really was. I mean, you got to be in that position. I think what he excelled at was relating to people and talking to people. And I think that was obvious when he had to be the AD, step in as the AD. And essentially they gave him said the budget is in a deficit, and he turned around and got all the money back. I mean, he's not just a guy that's just for coaching football. It's not just an X and O guy, right? Like, he's a guy that has the ability to walk into a room and command a room. And that's what I remember about Coach. Coach Sullivan, I just remember, it's just that somebody that is confident. Like, you can just tell, like, somebody that's confident. Like, Pat Sullivan was confident. Like, every time he walked in the room, he was confident. Like, it was no doubt, right? Like, you didn't have to know that guy had won the Heisman, but like, if you didn't know him and you found out, you're like, oh, it makes sense, right? Like, I remember he had me come over. I spent 1 year as a student assistant, graduate assistant, and he had me come over to his house to do something. He was finishing out a basement or something. He had me helping run wires, and like, the Heisman was just like sitting on the counter in the kitchen, like it was just like a paperweight. Like, it wasn't really that big a deal. It's like, there's the Heisman. Okay, that's cool. Coach, where you at? And like I said, he was just confident when going to LSU. You ever been here? Yeah, I've been here and never lost. Don't plan on it tonight. Like, he meant it. Like, it was no doubt he meant it. And so, I think the thing about those guys was they were personality. There was a lot of personality in those guys too. There wasn't just like, hey, we got to get the job done. Like there was a lot to those guys. In terms of I've seen Coach Brown after I got done playing with him, and it's like catching up. Like I just saw you yesterday. That personality comes out in them. So it was a neat experience. I remember like Coach Clay was our defense coordinator. I remember riding into LSU and him telling us about like one of the games he played in where he already had like a busted knee. And Bill Clay played in the NFL like back in the day when it was like rough. I remember he said he already had a knee that was feeling bad, and some guy like cut him, and he busted his other knee up, and he was like, I tried to turn around and kick the guy, but my other leg was already broken. It's like I just lay there, couldn't kick the guy. Like he's telling us this as we're driving into LSU, we're all laughing, having a good time, and he's setting the atmosphere for, just relax tonight. It's going to be, this is the opportunity to have fun, and so you play guys that have had experience and they just been so many places. Like that helps, like cut the ice, right? Like you just like, hey, there's no reason to be worried. There's no reason to be upset. Like it's a job. Like, you've practiced. Let's go out and perform. Let's go do what we're supposed to do. You don't want to call it a job, but it is job-like, right? Like you put the preparation in, go finish it out on Saturday nights. And so, you get around guys like that. And I think about them now. I mean, I try to keep that, keep some of those things in terms of what I do at work now, in terms of leading guys or dealing with patients or whatever we're doing in terms of at the fire station, just keeping yourself from getting down. You can't get down in life, man. You got to keep being positive.
Okay. So, who was your go-to guy? Like, who's your buddy while you were at UAB? Someone you probably hung out with a lot, and do you still talk with these guys?
Oh man, well of course, like being a kicker, our group over there, the specialty guys, right? Like we're there's punters, snappers, kickers, but they're just all the specialty guys. Like everybody, and the thing about it was so bad about for the punter, like the snappers, I hate it for them, but they all got called kickers too because they were with the kickers. You know what I mean? Like that's just the way it was. But my guys in college were Tom Cox, Mark Pettis, Ross Stewart, a guy named Desmond Odom, which is Percy's brother. Percy, me and Tom live next door to Desmond and Percy. Ronnie Jones, those are my guys. And like now, I mean, me and Tom and Mark still talk. I talk to Tom probably, I don't know, once a week or something like that. We just call each other. He's an early bird. He's a 4:30 in the morning kind of guy. I wake up, and so like when I go to work, when I go to the fire station, we swap around at 6:30. So I get in my truck about 5:30. I just pick my phone up at 5:30 a.m. I know he's awake. I mean, I know he's up. So we'll just talk once a week or so like that in the mornings. We try to do something with the families like once a year or so, just put everybody in the same room. And, there's like 15 kids now, and, it's just a different life. But those are my guys I still talk to. I talked to Desmond. I mean, I texted him the other day. We were catching up. I mean, you build those relationships. Like I said, day in, day out, you're together. I live with Tom. I live with Mark. You become family, like you really do. And so it's just like anything else, even if you're not in the same hometown or if you're not in the same area, you're still family, you're still brothers. So you're still going to catch up, and, you're still going to keep up with each other. And, everybody's got different schedules and demands. And like I said, you get kids involved, and, especially if one guy's got kids at junior high and the other one's got, 6-year-olds or kids all over the place playing sports. And, you do your best you can to keep up. I mean, sometimes it's just a text, and sometimes it's a phone call, and sometimes you can get together and hang out. You just do whatever you do. But, I've got lifelong friends from UAB. I'll say that.
That's great. So what is something Blazer fans might not know about you? We remember the kicker, and, a few of us may be friends with you on social media, but is there a hidden talent that we might not know about, or a hobby you have?
I don't think anybody has hidden talents anymore. Not with social media now, right? Like the way things go, you just put everything out there. And so, like, I learned how to play one chord on a guitar. People put it on Facebook. Like, I don't think anybody. I was thinking about that question when I was looking at it. I was like, I don't. I mean, obviously I've been a fireman for a while now, and so I mean, I guess I can cook. That's one thing, but I think that's what everybody expects for firemen to be able to do is cook. And just no hidden talents. I've always been one of those people. Like if I find something and I like it, and I'm gonna find a way to be really good at it and just and do it until I'm like, all right, that's enough. I'll move on to something else. And so I've never been one of those people that just has something I just do to myself. You know what I mean? Like if I'm doing it, if I'm doing it, I'm into it. You'll probably find me doing it. Probably not trying to hide it. I'm putting it out. I'm doing it. So I don't know. I don't really have anything. I like driving my fire truck fast. That's probably about it,
man. So, how is life now?
Man, life is great now. We got 2 boys. One is 13, like I said. He's played junior high football this year. That's a different experience, like watching your son play football. And he's not a kicker; he's a DN tight end. Like he's a big guy, And so, like, I'm sitting here racking my brain, like I'm trying to find. I wonder where some of these guys live. I need to go throw him to them and let them teach him how to do, how to swim, move, and everything else. Not my forte, but we got a 13, we got a 7-year-old, and we're just kind of rocking along. I mean, my wife's a teacher. Like I said, I'm a fireman, and since being a fireman, I've done like every other fireman, had side jobs and side businesses, and a couple years ago I went to Highlands College and finished that up back last December before the pandemic kind of hit. So, I just tried out. I said, hey, I feel called to ministry. I'll go do that for a couple years. Mark actually Pettis is the one that hooked me up with that. And so, I've done some things like that. I think for 2021, we're going into the second year of an adoption process. We felt just called to an adoption a couple years ago, and so we've been hard at it. And of course, we felt called to China, which was it's a little bit different to try to adopt from China right now. But we're just going to be faithful in it. We know that God makes a promise; He's gonna answer it. It's not on us, and so we're just going to be faithful to that calling. And until then, just keep raising these boys, keep trying to update our house and get it looking nice. And my wife's a junkie for all the HGTV shows, and so we're always doing something around here. I started detailing cars a couple years ago. That's been pretty good for me as far as raising money for our adoption, and it's really turned into a pretty good business. I think if anything, 2021 would be the year I try to kind of push that business to be a little bit more branding and legit. And the reason I want to is just because we've been blessed so much through being able to do that as far as raising money for adoption. I just, when we hit the point where we're good, whatever money I keep making off of that, I want to find somebody else to bless them with. And so I want to kind of build a business that takes 50% of everything that comes in and just gives it away. Just find people, find needs, find anybody. I mean, to bless them, to help them. And that really kind of came from, we actually got a grant for our adoption, and went through a group that linked us up with somebody that had the same thing. They just wanted to help somebody out. So they were going to help us out. So I thought, you know what? I want to do the same thing for somebody else. I want to see if I can do that with my business now. And so, that's what I do on my off days. Sometimes, I mean, I try to keep myself pretty flexible to keep up with the kids and help my wife out and all that kind of stuff. But and of course, fireman schedules, you're on a lot. You're on 24 hours. So you're gone a good bit. And then this has been a different year, let's say a year like no other. As far as this COVID, and it's really, as far as if you know somebody that's working frontline with that stuff, it's just the hours are different. I mean, the demand is different. The protocols are different. Like everything's different. It's just a different time. I went from when we have at the fire station, if one guy gets it, a few guys have to be off with them just because of the tracing, and so it starts to create a demand for guys to have to backfill these positions. And so now you're working. Sometimes you're working 48s. I had a week stretch where I worked like 80 hours of overtime, not even just my regular time, but overtime, just because we don't have enough guys to fill to drive some of the trucks or be firefighters or be officers or whatever it may be. And so, that's just the way it is. I mean, and we're not the only ones. I think everybody that's dealing with it right now, that's what you do. But I think if you have that calling, or if you have a job where you're working frontline like that, it's just, you just grind. I mean, that's what you got into it for, to help people. And so whatever the calling is and whatever the situation looks like, you gotta go answer it. You gotta go do your job.
It's fantastic to hear that stuff, man. I appreciate everything you do. And, I know that, thank you and your fellow firefighters. I know you guys do great work, and, first responders, everything. Thank you all so much. I got a few more questions for you, and then I'll let you go for the night.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I got some questions from my social media listeners from UAB Today at UAB Sports Today on Twitter. And wouldn't you know it, they're all about the LSU game. So
Yeah.
just a heads up. He asks, did he ever see Coach Saban, or does he remember a specific incident involving Saban after or during the game?
You know, I remember from like the game. I remember him being pretty brash at like the news conference. Like they asked him what happened. He was like, you know, he asked the quarterback. He threw the wrong route. You know, but other than that, no. And I've actually never met Coach Saban. The crazy things, you know, I'm a Tuscaloosa fireman, and I was actually stationed on campus for like 7 years. Like I literally would go to work maybe a mile, not even a mile from him, and we've never met. I've never, obviously, our lives have gone in different directions from that night in Baton Rouge. But you know, it's crazy to be that close to somebody, like to be in that vicinity. Like that's you know, again, you kind of can't make that up. But yeah, I've worked probably a mile from him for 7 or 8 years, and I've never met the guy. I mean, we had that tornado in 2011 that came through, and again, that was one of them times where everybody was working. You were working during the tornado. You would work your shift. You'd work 2 straight 12-hour overtime shifts. Then you go back to your shift. So you just work nonstop. And I remember we had a grill out afterwards. The Alabama's baseball team was playing LSU, and so we had a bunch of guys from LSU come in that were helping us just do search and rescue stuff. And we had a cookout, and they had Coach Saban come out there and talk to us for like a minute. And I can't even remember what he said, or you really can't hear him. There's so many people clamoring around. And, of course, you can't even get near him because he runs heavy now. Like that dude don't walk around without anybody around him. I mean, there's some big guys that are in his entourage, I guess. And so, but yeah, other than that, you know, and knowing what you know about him now, I mean, it's just, you know, it's not surprising to think about that press conference 20 years ago for him to say, I don't know, ask the quarterback. You know what I mean? But like now, I mean, it makes sense if you see how he is about things, right? Like he's just very blunt, very straightforward. He knows he's got objectives, and they just got to be met. That's just pretty simple with him. I like watching, you know, listen to him talk and stuff in terms of leadership and just how to get a big group of people to get on the same page. You know, we got 250 firemen in Tuscaloosa, and you know, it's a lot of guys to try to get on the same page a lot of times. And so, you know, you think about how he's doing it, and like, well, a lot of times we'll say, like, man, I wonder what it would be like if he was our fire chief. Like, how would it be right now? But you know, other than that, that's the most I've got from him.
Okay. So you mentioned him earlier, but your former Steel Dog teammate Cedric Buchanan on Facebook asked, and we kind of talked about it a little bit, but he asked, what was he thinking before the kick in Baton Rouge?
Well, like I sent him a message, and I told him, I said, man, you know, it was a done deal. You didn't have to worry about it. But you know, I go back, like I said, I was for me, it was the pressure in that moment was not any more pressure than I'd ever put on myself before. You always feel pressure, but you know, and at that point you're looking at it, it's like it's 10-10. Now I'm gonna say that. I mean, so you know, we're not gonna just lose if I miss this kick. So, but let's just go out here and make it. We got nothing to lose. Nobody thought we'd be here anyways. You know, and we had a great snapper. Ross was my holder. I mean, this guy was a phenomenal holder, and I just knew they would do what they're supposed to. I knew the guys were going to block on the line. Like, I mean, you're not going to just give up. I mean, you're not just going to lay all of a sudden or just miss something. Like, everybody was dialed in to do the job, you know. And so I just had to do my part. It's really what it came down to.
Awesome. And my last question is from one of my former guests and former UAB football player very recently, Lee Dufour on Facebook. He asks, how does it feel to know that you are the reason why UAB is undefeated against Nick Saban?
It's not me. It's not me. I mean, if you hear me talk, you know, I don't feel like it's me. I mean, it was everybody. Like there was that night, everything worked for us. You know, the team had been seasoned to get to that point. The Kansas loss may have even helped us a little bit in terms of just having an edge going in there, saying, let's just not let this happen again. You know, it wasn't me. It was a culmination of people before me shown me how to act in a big game, shown me how to act in big stadiums, shown me how to act as a UAB Blazer. Like that's part of it. The guys that we sweated with during the offseason, like I said, hey, the weights, our strength coach didn't care what position you played. What he told you to do, that's what you were going to do. And that's the end of it, And so we used to have a blacktop out there around the practice fields. Like that blacktop did not care who you were. It was going to be hot in the summer. And so it had nothing. It's not just me. It's everybody from those teams, teams before leading up to, and the team that was there that night. I mean, it was everybody did their part.
Okay. And my final question it's a lighthearted question I ask all my guests. If you could have dinner with one celebrity, who would it be and why?
I don't know. Let's say Nick Saban. Let's just say for obvious reasons, Nick Saban. Let's say that.
I was wondering if you're going to go there because you mentioned you hadn't seen him in so long, and you hadn't talked to him face to face. So that's seems like a pretty appropriate answer.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Awesome. Well, Rhett, thank you very much for joining me. I know my listeners are going to enjoy getting to know you a little bit better and reliving old times. So thank you again for being a part of Blazer history and joining me tonight. And thank you very much again.
Thanks, Will. Go Blazers.
Go Blazers. All right. I want to thank Rhett for his time and sharing some of his memories and current life stories with us. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Rhett is a great guy with a big heart, and it's great to hear about some of the things he's doing now in ministry, firefighting, and so much more. Thank you guys for listening. I'm sorry for that semi-long break in episodes. I came down with COVID-19 at the start of December, and it was a crazy month with the holidays, but I am better now, and I'm looking forward to starting off 2021 on the right foot with some great episodes for you guys. If you haven't checked out my social pages, the Dragon's Den is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram with the handle @DragonsDenEFEL. Once again, that's @DragonsDenEFEL. I'm looking forward to doing another Friday giveaway coming up soon with some of my best prize packs yet. I'm working on getting some of the items now, so just be on the lookout for that. And that's going to do it for me for episode 11 of the Dragon's Den. Good night, and go Blazers.